Hello, species value nature system. Hello, Vietnam. Hello, North Korea. I mean, North Korea. The species value nature system. I meant to say though, um, Iran. We have all kinds of unrealized means we could just stack in here. Like I'll give the like with games with pantheism, the identity that all share things share once. Its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that. Now, there are proofs that Allah's name was revealed by the identity of relationship that the letters of the English language have to each other, left to right. No, the same. In other words, not only are these sounds, these 26 sounds, have an identity of relationship to themselves, but they have a grouped relationship the same way we have each individual is simultaneously a sex, grouped value, age, area, simultaneously a species, the invisible but still discernible. And then that's also changing value in relationship to its identity, this trinity. But this trinity is also with these five pillars. And this is also science that preserved our languages, not by accident, however. We have quality of fact sheet nature styles there, here, everywhere, suit and ties, positive only in relationship to identity of negative value nature progression, so, not by accident, self-value. A whole bunch of natures and private industries, reliance upon only fathomable because we have tactically denatured relationship to nature, even that which is not overtly tactically denatured, it's all landscape theater. This is to mimic the identity of relationship to the ground that Allah has, that yin yang has. Yin yang is only, this is the proofs that yin yang was revealed with ancient times. English was revealed in ancient times. Yin yang can't be separated. Where it appears to be the different, this is to teach that the polarity nature between alpha and omega, positive or negative in relationship to a little bit more of of semi-natures of a complete identity on two sides of every value, even the smallest one. And so between even the smallest two values. This is science using Allah's name, that A through L, alpha, longing, LMN, is sharing that longing. And as temporary positive, positive lasting, as the value of omega or not, complete. Omega is already temporary value nature, but this is not. This is about. So we have the nature of women and the nature of men, where that's physical, all physical, even the big physical, all physical values come into fact sheet nature value, tied to original still nations grouped, other than how we were supposed to be grouped in demonstrating, talking about this thing tied onto these three natures of volume, bond, not only bonded but gaining volume, or being forced from here in relationship to the perfect value progression, the Trinity, and the first part of the Old Testament, first part of the Quran never let free speech, because the nations are grouped already treating values treatments. This is the algorithm Allah needs us to understand, not just that name. The languages are grouped, but they're also, in other words, but they're also bonded all together. We have to, this is the perfection of quality of fact treatment nature with premise treatment, sequence treatment. And Allah would, all the things going to space and nuclear weapons and stuff like that. That's identity with fact cheating nature. So now we have identities of nations in the semi-ancient trap. The defending an identity of negative value nature progression as all formal fact cheating nature like conviction styles about what you know everything means. Like that's why it's so important to understand the beginning of the seed. Their approach that their maintenance to everyone calling it the unbelievers rather than the wrongdoers. As in other words, to know them as criminal insidious nature. To know that because this is an organized crime method that knew that it was going to make each modern nation need to counter, and each state and area need to counter predicate acts that they would in organized crime that they would know how to counter as fact cheating nature any longer properly for what were revealed the ancient republic for which America stands, other republics for what other nations stands. That integrity came from before these stupid modern nations, before the stupid modern semi-ancient nations, that before even modern religions. Thank God for the messengers of modern religions, for science reasons. See, they're offensively defending things like that out of sequence, and then they can have formal treatments of religion, where they say what is impractical. When people try to use religious rights in America, we don't have free speech, but through contrast, for example. So free speech, where it is a value and value as nature simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly. This is a breaching organized crime method that kept and keeps the identity that is shared, and therefore that was shared since before our founders' births. Already, organized crime, archetypal organized crime, breaching organized crime method, using human fact cheating nature, already divided Native Americans, already invested everyone to the same pathology of houses that is across the landscape since before cars. Our founders couldn't speak about that. Everyone had other painted in databases. That is demonstrable because of the way they're still doing that and the way they're exploiting it. Because then they further invest that each age of fact should be nature with another method of organized crime that everyone's self-valuing roles with obfuscation of correlation nature's answers with sequence true, inherent order true of the finite. So Allah's name, value Allah, the finite. And that's right to left, while English is left to right because these languages are grouped. So I'm a lawyer. English has Latin laws like habeas corpus, which is inside or outside, different kinds of things like that. But part of it is supposed to be able to write your way out of jail if you're put in there illegally, like St. Nicholas was set up. They still putting fake recorded things into databases through time. And then they're ignoring people and they're lying about when we communicate, and they're making confessions. Now this is tied to organized crime that has the sequence racketeering roles with the church, with the various branches of government investigations of everything. They're blaming other. They already propagated modern nations blaming other things, others themselves, for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, acts like predicate acts, natures like criminal and sadistic natures, mass wrongdoers. It's right here in America. That's why and how no one could even understand how to counter right through our schools. They have our American history overtly and simultaneously, insidiously, in the hands of criminal insidiousness, in the hands of the identity thefts of our founding fathers, Americas. And they do this, but these are each age of fact cheating nature formal. Every fake nation, modern nation is suits and ties. So what is alpha is not to be this crazy omega, not omega and alpha are attached. This is like this is part of yin yang because when if you separate the alpha, which is one part of the polarity, alpha and omega, which is also the trinity, which is the mid, the identity of difference between what they are distinctly and non-distinctly as, and with further completely, and that further has a complete and non-complete relationship to itself, which is really what positive and negative is about, which is really about how this trinity can be. There's a difference between temporary and lasting positive. Lasting positive will only stay positive unto itself. Allah, the identity of algebra. See, we have each age of fracture nature showing a nature of theater that is in collusion, all fake sides of correlation nature, all victims, all predators to reactions as factory nature because of the way this adapts too. Not even let told on there. These child offenders. Oh, this is what I want to ask you for because there's a Leahy family, and there are a whole bunch of medical families, foreign and domestic, involved with a whole bunch of racketeering. Shit, they're keeping the branches of each modern nation. They're keeping each database, each science, criminally foreign influence delusions raw, like with psychology, and like you know. Plus, we could invent a religion here, and you guys. I don't want. I just want to change. I want to liberate the species, nature, or volume to have its science that reveals evolution means really. It's not by accident we have zoning laws. We're in this pathology that was forced with the fact treatment, nature, slavery, racketeering of our nation's founders, forced to group what was already grouped since before modern religions. The religions themselves knew that they were going to be left in the hands of what was going to be in collusion with interbranch. See, this is interbranch sequence shift racketeering, not already in cases, already in state offensive, pretending to perceive things because they can get away with it from there, and pretending to record things that are fake recorded things, putting into databases as a vertical and horizontal organized crime method with what tactically denatured the humanity's relationship to the nature, not just with the pathology that that tied to the zoning laws, things like this. Everyone needs jobs, stuff like that, because and from this tactically denatured, so no one individually grouped in or together can do anything else. And we're locked in to an identity of negative value nature progression, and we have it being denied. We have a quality of fact treatment nature, time treatments always too fast, too slow against forever nature's words and course and things and needs. So man, I'll do if we but they have these groups this way with other motivations, natures. This is racketeering that's maintaining styles of liars that can't defend that, and what exploits what keeps everyone speaking through others, and then already left and keeps invested states and areas, branches of government, all database relationship clicks needed to hide lie progressions individually grouped and together. Needed to hide lie, standing lie progression, cover up natures. Therefore, styles in relationship to the actual value of nature progression of an as the identity that fills all things at once. We have to agree about the name. But that's what Allah is revealed to teach with these two languages, distinctly and non-distinctly, because one identity is that distinct and non-distinct unto itself, that which is two values on each side of each value, no matter how small, no matter how finite. And the five pillars about this too, through science, reveals this stuff. So in other words, about the predicate act is in relation to whoever commits a predicate act is going to be a criminal insidiousness nature. They're going to need to hide lie progressions. They need to hide their styles of lying using positive and using logic distinctly and non-distinctly differently from logic with no that is not criminal insidiousness nature, as the rest of all the other species. No, not criminally foreign influenced, not with it legalized, especially because now you're justifying what you can't justify but be a lie progression from each database, not really by accident. Forgiveness is for this. With Christianity, I want to call it Christianity, call the first part of the Quran. I mean, the first part of the Old Testament in sequence about the sciences. That sciences share an identity. See, they want to hold the volume of value that each holy book is out of sequence. They want to pretend they know the most with American history. So who knows what the name of the amendment is, while they're stealing free speech offensively with racketeering tricks, fact cheating nature tricks, pretending that all this is humanity. That all motivations, natures, needs, and interests juxtaposed. Because nature is identity, and it has an increasing nature of volume as a quality of diffusion. But by what is making more of itself, it is self-generating. So things come into and from Earth that was generated from nowhere by it. Things come into through where there's space with no air, and we have the right mixture. We have a negative or a positive value nature progressions. So now we have a whole bunch of carbon monoxide. We have all the technology we need right now. How do you think then we have those zoning laws tied to why and how we never lifted the water? You can make all kinds of more energy you can gain from dropping the water once you have it lifted. Take away all the zoning laws, you understand, use real science. You afford you make money. You make everyone value more just by building it. That's what paradise is, a scientific value for here. That's a scientific value. Otherwise, it's fake science. So they can't defend freedom of religion. So we have all these nations. They're hiding behind their identities. The little minority they have, like with psychology, nations group currently foreign influence, racketeering rules with themselves. Now this becomes hundreds of thousands of people with little fact treatments, with other people's names speaking to each other. A whole bunch of people with psychology involved with a whole bunch of natures of courts, originally and still sick, blaming other nations, things. Oh, it's a cold world. These are people involved with intercampuses of each age and nature, racketeering to the obfuscation. This was set up since, in other words, to the obfuscation of, into the simultaneous, in other words, this is sabotage, human fact treating nature, which the sciences share an identity. We can use pantheism, which is science. It's not asking faith, and we can pull humanity. So we have to admit and understand that and how we have to have simultaneous natures of reliefs, and everyone will help it if they could even fathom that governments would do this together, like a game, because that's what it feels like. We counted this together. We're in an identity of negative value nature progression that came from since before modern religions, and there are proofs that this is to teach yin yang. There are proofs that, so if you can't separate yin yang, So you'd say, for example, you take alpha out. Now, so a yin yang is a subsection of the identity of all things at once. So yin yang is a gaining nature of volume by the identity that is self-generating, that generated Earth in the planets, and that while being its value, and while being our value, the value coming from us as a quality of diffusion, distinctly and non-distinctly Earth in relation to the rest of nature. See, but now we have criminally foreign influences. We're an identitative negative value nature progression, instead valuing trillions of on all kinds, because all the geniusness is market positions. All modern nations built only already invested, propagated all juxtaposed motivations, interests, and interests, blame the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts like predicate acts, and criminal and seditious natures, right where we need them not. Well, in other words, fake identity. The species complete is an identity. We don't have free speech in modern nations, and it's because of the racketeering method /S bonded. That is vertical and horizontal database racketeering since before computers. It's recorded involved sequence racketeering because there are various natures of courts involve racketeering with various nations, with Facebook, various nations keeping them that database organized crime method that was here since with databases since before our founders' births. I know what they're using now because the evidence is they're recording, for example, and that's evidences too. These are states and areas hiding this from presidents. Presidents also hiding us from knowing it, but not knowingly, but not realizing it, not fathoming what bonded all to roles with the same organized crime method, how someone could do that, which involves also the tactically denatured relationship to nature and uses of these zoning laws and only let realize pathology of means to everything involved with the torture and in fact treatment nature slavery of our founders. They just stuck with if they tried to correct what was in databases, would they had to play the theater that was directed by the laws. Everyone was a fact treatment nature slave. So that's when people they put color in there. That's black and white agencies working together. That what kept that perpetually hid, blamed on just use it, not by accident the whole entire time. Those little exceptions aren't noted, and that and how there was a whole bunch of racketeering, and there then and now there are sustained offensive evidence reception and perception racketeering roles and and fact treatment nature styles as modern nations branches, individually grouped and together. Every individual group and all together each branch. Whole crime methods recorded, but we have mandated law followed. They're already stuck, criminally foreign influenced. All leaderships of all tied to the branches of government, to the campuses of all natures. All database relationships private too. So they're pretending to be against speech as the ones who are simultaneous misprision criminality woven, already exploited for all kinds of natures of racketeering, bad things, boxings. These are people involved really could have prevented a whole bunch of shootings, whole bunch of differences of fact treatment nature styles forced because these are often they built everyone needing to this is a method that built everyone needing to value Areas where we have a lot of shootings and stuff like that need to value especially distinctly, not distinctly, every area. Sickly distinctly, so they everyone doesn't realize how sickly non-distinctly they're making everyone blame the real causes for negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, other things, others themselves, and they're adapting when people tell things right or wrong, because that standing misprision uses of each identity of the ground was already ill. They already have to change things, but we're stuck in a box that is incapable, not because of population, because of uses of the population never liberated. All roles with the breaching organized crime, racketeering, using human fact sheeping nature. So they put color in there to keep what they do. In other words, they're pretending our founders are were slaveholders, because that was the narrative force left in databases. And if they tried to correct that, that will come what has hundreds of natures grouped already was sophistication before, while being that they would have come right, they came right through. They didn't even know the extent. They didn't know James Madison was our founder. They had to trick everyone and force everyone to fight for freedom with that narrative, not real freedom. For slavery was still entrenched by the breaching organized crime method. We're supposed to have free speech to talk about. So we have like one Vietnamese family that we'll need to counter. And I would never want to hurt Vietnam anymore. I never hurt Vietnam, but I would never want to hurt Vietnam, any nation, or Korea, or any nation, Korea, South Korea, North Korea. I wouldn't want to hurt, but I'm talking about um, Kuwait, because this is also Allah. And I know you guys could be so strong. And this is we could bring paradise to, like, we can afford agreements. And we have to understand that not one nation's identity holds these bombs. And each identity that does, where that's not true, and each individual does have an individual, each nation does have an individual identity, where and has it counts, where and how it counts with factually nature. That's only from a compromised naive position, self-valued, force self-valued so many ways at once, like the pretend integrity. Because otherwise, if you don't, then you get penalized. And they're quote that as evidences at fact cheaping nature levels, at like trade agreement levels. Each nation's with markets positions forced, grouped, entertained agreements by that as identities, the law that can't defend that and handle all that Allah's name was revealed to teach, with sequence true, finite, active, and progressive. Because in correlation beyond that, prayer is science. Only, I mean, not only faith, there doesn't have, part of it is needed by science. We have the alpha scale going, because there's the range of positive that we are in, the Trinity. Even though even the smallest, even right between the smallest part of anything, there are five things, vaccines, between it, as a relationship between everything. That's the value of everything at once to itself, which is the difference between temporary positive, which is also temporary / lasting positive or negative, while being forced temporary positive. We're also simultaneously forced positive or negative in relationship to a value, the value progression system perfect. The identity of the gaining nature or volume of all things that is forever nature that gains. That's why the air gains gases. That's why the earth gains plants, living things, things. So they're using. That's why the Quran warns against groups that say they're Muslims always, but they don't understand, and they do, because that's maintained for other motivations of nature's needs, interests, all juxtaposed. Everyone needs the Quran defended wrong because they already have it used wrong in relationship to all kinds of value treatments where even the people successful with market positions are victims because of how the identity is being used. That's why what's really reciprocal is not like free speech. And not one nation at the same time, and every nation is recorded how maintained, effectively maintained without even realizing it, blaming other things other than themselves for the real cause of it. So they put color in there because these are minority that took over internation sciences, the value of that. So they took over the value of areas and states that were valuing that and how why we are a species grouped an individual at the same time, which is tool to see the five pillars of Islam. This is my take on it. This is the beginning of the Quran. All it doesn't before anything debatable. It says you don't have to think about. All you have to do is agree about that first part. That's why it's important to have understood the difference between unbeliever and criminal insidious nature, a wrongdoer, like the wrongdoers, if you call it, instead like when they translate the Quran into English. Because now this is in relationship to the organized crime, like or criminal enterprises, where you have to blame. That's where you have to define a criminal enterprise if you want to formally, as fact treatment nature, civilized counter predicate acts. See, now we have maintained only counters to organized crime and collusion with it. All victims raised as a nature of child abuse the same exact way and by and as roles with the same fact cheating nature racketeering method that has the even though they're different groups, they don't even know each other. They're kept needing to hide the same. The overt criminal enterprises kept needing the same, and the military, foreign and domestic, even if they hate each other, kept needing to hide the same sequence shift, racketeering, finite active progressive lies, identity racketeering, roles, uses of that self value, fact cheating nature styles, therefore in relationship to nature itself, which is identities contained. Containment as that which is invisible but still discernible through that which is invisible but discernible, which is drawn, for example, as yin yang. And with alpha, we you to teach, if you pull alpha from the subsection of yin yang, which is still being filled by a greater's identity of relationship to itself, and or by its identity of relationship to itself. And if you, in other words, if you bring if new value is revealed where there was none, all this is in demonstration of the one identity and self generation as the identity of volume science. See, we have volume theory, and they put Big Bang in there, because these are people involved with fact cheaping nature racketeering. The same way the overt criminal enterprises were raised to things where everyone says, "Oh, we have to counter that," and they say blame it on. So then no one's even watching what things get blamed. Then they have to hide their lie progressions in relationship to correlation nature, where the real age is a fact cheaping nature in real life. Either are going to be the ones hurt by the confessions and the demonstrations and the uses of each age of fact cheaping nature, because also vertical and horizontal database racketeering is really involved with what Captain keeps the overt criminal enterprises and all the nation sick fake styles of fake integrity, fake science, which is the identity that all things share at once. Boxing's two campus stunts with stolen name. So, in other words, when you pull alpha apart as a subsection of yin yang, you can't separate yin yang. So that means simultaneously there are two other subsections. For example, Romulus and Remus, and the male is alone with this. And that, in other words, that is yang. That would be yang, the way they and the progressive nature of volume, Adam and Eve. That would be yin. And alpha is one part of polarity nature that is part of our nature as a trinity, which is also a little bit more, a little bit more. In other words, each part of a trinity, each small every value has two values on each side of it, as what is complete, as to the and simultaneously as a semi-nature relationship to that which is the only complete nature that's going the only identity that's going to only fill. It's in other words, it does not leak. It lifts and gifts or goes leave for the high Ds. So we're riding to space. All this energy to make nuclear weapons, all this energy to make here, there. When we have to check each other because we're first with crazy things to worry about. At the same time, we have those people we have to worry about when we left that, not by accident, exploited, not by accident, relationship to the facade of buildings, the means to infrastructure. It's ridiculous. Every time we build a hole, we could then build um, compost. We should be working for that. For paradise is a value. It's such a value to be able to have able to be the strong man and woman, to be able to have to be able to have an identity of any nation. To have the agree, we'll stack so many things. I mean, we can stack so many things, box things. For in other words, other means to defend everyone's self. That is also simultaneously means who's going to want to fight when paradise is enabled. We can bring water to the deserts, and if you have a warm climate, see, we're in an identity of negative value nature progression. We better do this. Humanity, the species, all we have to do is liberate this, and we can force. In other words, please put that in negotiations. We can force agreement. Like if you guys agree, everyone agrees not to make nuclear weapons. We can force all the nations to so many while we're setting up a brand new value nature system. So that's when we need pantheism. We need everyone to realize to be able to fathom and to understand, which is right there recorded. Everyone's zoning laws are criminally foreign influenced, and it's not the fault of everyone. And we have the same things to blame. It's not one. It's not one thing. It's who can't admit that. That's the only person to blame. Say, but who can't wait in secret? It's true. Because then you're a fact treating nature style, pretending reliant upon precedents and statutes in every modern nation. Otherwise, each person who tries to say other, because see, in other words, Allah is value progression per algebra, per science, true. The Trinity with Jesus Christ is trying to say he's our nature has an identity of relationship to itself that is positive or negative. Itself is where and how each self is as a complete identity of value progression. It is further simultaneously a value to the identity of volume that is self-filling. It's self that is self-generating, making more of what is positive or negative to itself, while it is staying what is only going to stay positive onto a little bit more of itself that can only be completed by the value of us simultaneously. That's why when we're not valued to our simultaneous natures, which is its nature, it forces it away from here. Then the phenomenon of Earth's difference is force-based nature transfer, lethal IDs. They have this worse and obfuscated since some semi-ancient times because of this organized crime method / bonded made everyone blame other things other than themselves. Not only that, made them value that, invested it, the real cause of predicate acts. It engineered fact treatment nature styles of criminal insidiousness with every value, offensively, on and off campuses maintained already. Identity of relationship to the grounds as fact treatment nature, offensive evidence reception and perception, criminally foreign influence delusion rot, every modern nation. So that's why we're going to space. And it's like that's why it's unbelievable how perfect it is to counter this, because no one even used religion free speech. Religion is still in collusion with sequence racketeering with child offenders, also with the various natures of psychology. They have all kinds of racketeering involved at once. And so this is also racketeering that brings in a whole bunch of names and family members, and that was already invested. And they use crime methods where no one can get a counter to them vertical, horizontal stacking databases and into branch ones. And then preventing counters everywhere. Forging names, switching names into branch. A whole bunch of nations kept them doing that through time. The British Superior Court, other nations of courts. Their rules with a whole bunch of different nations of natures of criminal insidious natures. I mean, of overt criminal enterprises like Los Solitos. Recorded confessed with a whole bunch of people racketeering on and off Fox Connecticut News. Their stories. WFSB. Nothing personal. They want to hurt people. They offensively pretend things. Lies about the past to cover the racketeering with the offensive databases with each age of schools. Whole bunch of people with Washington, D.C., Trade Center, Pentagon originally, still racketeering with private agreements like with psychology. They have mental diagnosis and sequence racketeering. It would be too expensive if they try. In other words, they have So that in other words, that's what they say is that we have free speech still not permitted. We have mandated law through an organized crime method not permitted, and they're maintaining the way they're doing it by using it forced through the grammar schools. They're hurting each age of people and then making the victims used as the state weapons, like a whole bunch of women police undercover and such like that. And when they're just plain clothes. They're involved with racketeering, a whole bunch of nations originally still. And then what are they going to say? When these are fact nature, when someone says that, they want to say, oh, so. Well, they're preventing it because they're forging names, switching names, racketeering roles, even with child offenders. Principal child offenders campus further when they were still forcing that by preventing it from being told on. Because intervened branch family members then and now where had their kids involved with that. Other natures of racketeering, verbal federal crimes, and as with through mail crime cliques, wire crime cliques, like with this Leahy family, a whole bunch of medical families. There's a DCM1 family. Also, recorded confessed Dr. Dingleberry, Dr. Dewberry, Dr. Zeman, all recorded confessed demonstrated with a Leahy family, a Lombardo family racketeering with judges, racketeering with child offenders through time, with houses in my area tied to racketeering with thousands of people from former director of the FBI down to his co-defendants, the family members of them, his lawyer former Robert Luskins is the former director of the FBI. Robert Chevrolet was his lawyer in a 2006 case. Leading up to that, and leading up to the Trade Center, people associated with as the defendants in that case, including defendant former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on RICO law, which is Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. He was involved with a whole bunch of other nations. So they don't have the sophistication to counter what Captain keeps each sophistication fake sides and pretending other with identity. They have Me Too recorded and involved use because they're preventing mandated law. They're involved racketeering with people stacking in New York City. See how sick and desperate we are? Please help um nations, and I'll help especially who Wave Nation wants. I'll do for free. Any nation that will just give me like just say you guys listen to me. I'll give a little business idea, and then it will be beyond taxes. Your nation will already have it, and we'll make it a group. We'll care for the groups around a group nation. How we're grouped, and we'll care for a species at the same time, which will also control that group. Also, individuals could complain into it. This perfects quality of fact treatment nature. This uses paradise here as a value. See, we for nations not to have weapons. In other words, already we have to understand we can build equipment that no group or anything could afford to heal what is tactically nature relationship to nature to 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 make the soils to make the whatever. See what really revealed all the seeds and things like that that are even remembered what was nature's soils, things all tactically nature because they knew that would cause negative value nature progressions, acts of natures in demonstration of it. A tactically natured relationship to itself, nature self, identities, nature, or volume is in demonstration to us all ways. So what's alpha is gaining volume. What's omega is with the bombs, with the identity pretending it's positive. Each modern nation is the victim, is the predator of that this way. as victims, but as predators. We have to. In other words, we have to connect what's going to be positive sequence, inherent, active, and progressive towards the value of paradise here. That's water. You can lift once you lift water, you can make more energy coming down than it takes to make it going in. Plus, you save energy because now you have all kinds of things that could on the way down that are beauty, our fish, our energy that is that is progressive value, not just peace. Criminal seriousness nature loves peace too. Everyone loves peace. You know this pantheism is countless means, and we need to set up means for nations grouped individually together to keep realizing, oh my God, we should have been doing this all along. So whatever, and then like in other words, if we need nations to realize that other nations, even though they're not the same nations, we're all stuck together, messed up. So say these nations A and B are having differences, A and B and C, you know, on our parts, have them stack what they could build from. That would be more valuable than anything. And then have, in other words, before the show that say, okay, us nations C and four, we're gonna do this with pantheism. We're gonna do this game, and we're gonna make this fund this, and we're gonna set this so we don't have these kind of conflicts anymore. And we're gonna show how the value nature system is forcing people to value treatments that you can't defend, even though you're a victim, forced to fight with precedents and with statutes as a victim. This is how they forced gang. They forced each branch of government of modern nations, each science, each database relationship to be a gang nature, to be criminally foreign influence factory nature, to be a standing criminal insidious nature, valuing the real cause of negative value nature, progression, acts, nature. There's not one modern nation that is in control of the identity of their nation. Not with no words. That's why right in the beginning of the Quran, all someone has to do is it says is understand that this book, the identity of its subject is Allah. This is how I would translate. And it says all you have to do is believe that to be a Muslim. And it says even if you're not a Muslim, it's valuing them more than it's valuing them as what is value. But it's not valuing Muslims that say they're Muslims always. See, because it knew that it knew that human fact treatment nature already came through criminally foreign influence sciences. They were already victims of a human fact treatment nature, racketeering method, torture, slavery. Slavery of our founders even is glorified. Those narratives with the databases were not true. That's why not one modern nation has learned to speak for their their history right, and that's why it's not that long ago. All right, thank you. So in other words, that's what we need to agreements that will pay for water just to be lifted. How much it costs to lift water, then you have it to come down. Especially where, you know, everything's denatured. So it's like a game we have to set up. It only feels like game. See, we own this way. the one way of fighting, all win, and it's fun because all of a sudden it's who's going to reveal for everyone. This is evolution that uses the identity of ground, and it doesn't deny science. That does not deny simultaneously that and how distinctly and sickly distinctly, and sickly non-distinctly. Every single modern nation is from a tactically denatured relationship to nature. Worse, distinctly, we have to amend that with what has nothing to do with it, which is all that force to be negotiated with as the value of naive reactions tied to naive reactions, tied to group naive reactions, self-value, positive. So what do? Pretend in relationship to the wars, pretend in relation to threats that they can't even talk about because they're too expensive, more hours than there are in the day, more minutes than there are in the day, and they're all simultaneous. So everyone's just, that's how they're forced into this gangland, quoting them all different ways. So like what we hear about on TV with this, especially Hartford, Connecticut, we have fake sides. We have database, a vertical horizontal database racketeering. No one's free. We have all kinds of group nations racketeering roles with that with psychology. So now they're defending suit these ones with badges who are doctors of psychology. Big deal. Their delusions rot, and that's a criminally foreign influence science weaponized. Sequence racketeering. So they're preventing mandated law offensively so they could exploit statutes and precedents that are forced left nave, but they're in other words, not that could be demonstrated, but they're preventing mandated law while they're faking things recorded into databases because they've already been using them criminally. They've already been crime methods, natures, acts, and roles with cases. All the time recorded on before they were doing that, they already facilitated racketeering roles and natures with all the prisons tied to them. All fake medical health care. So we have countless means to, we have, in other words, we have means to release. We can admit this together, especially if we know, okay, these nations agree. We've been nuts. So we can agree to this, but only if you guys are going to help. What are you guys going to do? And we said, okay, we're going to make sure that never will do anything but grow as means to make more and more the value of paradise itself, of time liberations, to quality of fact, human nature, to all positions of it. Reliefs admitting and understanding that and how. Worse than, but also for torture, what is peaceful with our zoning laws, and way worse than torture. But that, and we're gonna have to see the fact treatment nature styles and such, which is actually recorded. Evidences is what is actually recorded. See, Facebook is involved with sequence racketeering. They're picking fight. They want to pick fights about things by leaving out their racketeering acts and roles with a whole bunch of natures of crimes and names, especially the ones with the badges and with gavels. Further recorded and confessed with Facebook involved racketeering with groups associated with a sequence shift and other natures of crimes in and out of the Ninth Circuit in the Trade Center attack context. The Manhattan court right next to the Trade Center, right before the attack. It was proven after that post-dated documents have been post-dated presented to the court that proven led up to a 2006 Connecticut case, district court case, with former director of the FBI and with his Robert Luskin and with his co-defendants and federal criminals also involved with various niches of courts, like New Britain Superior Court. Hartford courts involved racketeering leading up to that and in that case, and further since, with and as the groups also involved with the child offenders, with the campuses, with the principal sex offenders campus further then and now, with more roles with that. Wethersfield Police, distinctly, non-distinctly, state's attorney's office, all that. Judges, females, how they have females involved with this. These are also with the Vietnamese family. Now, see, these are people exploiting originally still fake identities of nations together. Sick. In other words, not means, especially where there's good environment. We should have no, we have to lift water. We have to make the soils paradise. We have to make an engineering of that's not semi unsafe. It's going to keep getting knocked down, keep go back into the. It's ridiculous. Not by accident. So then we need jobs though. So we need to get real science. We need to liberate evolution, forever nature's course, not play these games. Who trains? In other words, all we have to do is unite the species, nature, volume. Everyone wants it. But you know what? No one can fathom it. Everyone's valuing going to space because they're left value so many ways integrity fake. You exploit it every area. Everyone's missing all that tied to the vertical and horizontal database racketeering method/S. I tell it best, no, please. So, thank you. We can do it.